Welcome to 20 Minute Tabletop, a podcast sharing the love of all things tabletop gaming in bite-sized pieces. I'm your host, John Wiki, here today with my co-host, Stevie.
Today, we will summon our powerful imaginations as we attempt to wield magic inks. Today, we'll play cards to go on a quest. Today, we're talking about the Disney Lorcana trading card game.
I'm very excited to get to share with you this brand new game. So for what it is, we'll turn to the Disney Lorcana website. As an Illumineer, you'll wield 6 magical inks to summon glimmers of Disney characters. Glimmers can appear as familiar friends or in fantastically reimagined forms. Recruit glimmers to your team as you travel through the world of Lorcana. The lore is you are drawn into a world by magic and find yourself in front of a book. You pick up an inkcaster, and instinctively you hold it over the book, and with magical ink you create an image of a Disney character that rises off the pages. This glimmer is a version of the character only in this world. You are now an Illumineer, adding to the lore of Lorcana and searching for missing lore with your glimmers.
This new game is a Disney and Ravensburger entry into the world of trading card games. You have a deck built based on a set of rules, then you play against another player, working to draw and play your cards on your way to victory.
This is a brand new game, launched first only at local game stores, and on September 1st launching widely available at general retailers and shopdisney.com. We were lucky enough to get 2 starter decks from some of our FLGSs. So let's start with our first fresh impressions.
I was really excited for this game because Disney has yet to do a trading card game, and I think they drew upon some very successful models to make this super fun for the Disney enthusiast as well as a TCG enthusiast.
I think this is a really fun TCG. It's pretty easy to pick up, and it's great if you are a fan of Disney characters, which I am.
So let's talk about setup. We were able to get our hands on 2 starter decks, which come pre-built and ready to play. With those, we were able to jump right in, and given that, it's actually not too difficult. What I found really helpful is that DisneyLorcana.com has a how to play section with short videos on each portion of play. The setting up a game video is just 49 seconds long.
In addition, with the decks and online is a 2-page quick start guide, walking you through everything about how to read the card, setting up, how to play, and building a deck. Once you have a deck, the setup is as simple as 1. Shuffle your deck. 2. Set your lore tracker to 0. 3. Draw 7 cards and look at them but no one else's. 4. You can optionally alter your hand once by putting some of the cards at the bottom of the deck, drawing back up to 7, and then reshuffling your deck. And the final step is just determining the first player. It can be by coin flip, rolling of a dice, or the method of your choosing. That's it, and then it's game time.
So let's talk mechanics. Mechanics are the meat of what makes a TCG flow. If you've played other games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, or the My Little Pony trading card game, then parts of this will be familiar. Other elements will be what makes Lorcana unique and stand out from the rest.
So there are 3 types of cards. There are character cards, and these are your glimmers. They quest for lore, they challenge opponents, and some actually have special abilities. Next you have item cards. They give special abilities during the game, and they stay in the game. So generally you exert them in order to get their ability, and then sometimes it also costs ink in order to do them. And lastly, you have actions which are one-time advantages. You play them and then discard them. There's a special subset of actions called songs, which is just interesting because you can either pay a cost for the song, or characters of a certain cost can sing the song for free by exerting themselves.
So let's talk about the parts of the card. In the top left corner, you have the cost to play your card. Around that cost to play, if you have the ink icon, which is circular, they can also be used as ink. There's your art, the name of the card, classifications like character, item, or action, and then the ink color. There are abilities and effects listed underneath the art. Some activate when you play the card, some you pay ink to play, and some you have to exert the character in order to utilize. The characters also have strength for damage and their willpower for health, and when you lose all of your willpower, you get banished. And finally, they will have the lore value for how much lore you gain if they go questing.
There are two phases of play, the beginning phase and the main phase. The beginning phase is ready, set, draw. So ready is you write any cards and return them to the ready position if they've been exerted. Set is you take any characters from the last round and place them up so they're ready to be able to play. And then draw, you draw one card to start.
Next is your main phase. This is the phase where you act. There are a list of things you can do. You can choose as many as you like in any order that you like. So you can add to your inkwell once per turn. You can play a card. You can activate an item. You can play a character ability. And you can quest or challenge to exert a card. You can also use any abilities that require the card to be exerted.
One of the main mechanics in order to play cards is your inkwell. So you need to add cards to this inkwell, and then you exert the inkwell in order to play cards. So those cards have a cost, and if it costs 3 ink, you need to have 3 cards in your inkwell to be able to exert to be able to play that card. However, this requires sacrificing a card to the inkwell. As we talked about, in the top is their cost, but there's an icon around it that tells it this card can become ink. There's a trade-off of what cards am I willing to get rid of? And no matter what the cost of the card is, it could be a 5, it could be a 1, it's only going to get you 1 ink. That card is now face down, and that becomes one of your inks that you can then spend. You can only put 1 in your inkwell each round to build that inkwell up. It's a real trade-off because you're giving something up to have that ink.
One of the things I like about the inkwell is that, unlike other games, it's not color dependent. Your ink is any color, so it doesn't matter what color your deck is, because when you put ink in the inkwell, it can be used for any color card. Next is playing cards. When you play a card, you need to exert the amount of ink required in order to play it. Characters cannot be used that round that they are played unless they have a special ability. For example, Rafiki has the Rush ability, and he can challenge in the round in which he is played. Item cards can be used right away if you choose. Action cards, when played, do what they tell you and then are banished. As John mentioned before, songs are special actions that you can either pay or exert someone with the appropriate cost in order to use their actions.
My other thing that I like a lot is that the way to victory is lore. To get lore, you exert a card. And when you exert that card, you turn them sideways, you gain the lore on that card. It can be anywhere, so far I've seen from 1 to 3 lore you can gain by questing. That gets you closer to victory because you need that 20 lore. But the trade-off is when you exert someone, it leaves them open to be challenged.
So let's talk about challenging. Challenging is how you knock out an opponent's character card in order to banish them. If a card is exerted, you can challenge it, and you exert one of your cards, character cards, to challenge your opponent. They both deal strength damage to one another's willpower. If you run out of willpower, the card is banished. Unlike other games, the damage here sticks, so they give you tokens to track your cards, but some decks have special abilities and items to help heal those cards. So the damage sticking, I think, is one of the interesting mechanics here because that's very different than some other TCGs.
It's interesting because if you don't exert a character, they can't be challenged, but obviously then you're not getting anything out of that character. So you can only challenge exerted characters, but then you've exerted your character, even if they survive and take damage because it's sticky, they could be then challenged the next round, and your guy could get knocked out because they're already hurt, so they could be knocked out by somebody weaker. So it's an important aspect of that.
Yeah, and I think that will play into your strategy when you're playing, and you need to choose carefully when you want to quest and when you want to challenge.
That about covers the main mechanics, so we'll dig in some more while we talk about our enjoyment of the game. I love the variances in the cards and figuring out how to make them work together. I was playing an Amethyst Amber starter deck. One of my characters was Hey Hey, Boat Snack. So I say that because all cards have the name of the character plus the version of the character they are. Hey Hey just costs 1 to play, has 1 strength and 2 willpower, so not the strongest. And they get 1 lore when they quest. However, when they quest for that 1 lore, they add their strength to another character. So you quest him, and then one other character has an additional strength for that turn. So you can quest this and make somebody stronger to then challenge. I paired that with my Dr. Facilier Charlatan card that is a 0 strength 4 will, but if he challenges, he gets 2 strength. Then, You add that with the +1 from Hey Hey, or multiple from multiple Hey Heys, and he can take out someone much stronger while surviving because he has 4 willpower.
Speaking of that, different inks generally have different type of abilities in a general sense. While we don't have all of the colors in our possession, these are sort of our general observations. Amber, or the yellow, seem to have healing abilities spread throughout effects related to multiple characters. The amethyst cards, or the purple cards, had a good number of ways to get more cards or look at cards in your deck and return banished cards either to your hand or your deck. The ruby, or red deck, had some powerful characters and powerful boosting actions. I think TJ played this deck against both of us. It also can have you losing lore, and they have a Dragon's Breath action that straight up just banishes characters. All the colors have some synergy, so you're not forced to play a single way, but I mean, I know I'm excited to dig in and build my own decks as I figure out the strategies I like.
Yeah, they all kind of work together, and you can have either one or two colored decks, so you can take some of the different abilities and have them work together as you build it out. One of the things I liked was evasive characters. These can be really interesting if you get them early on and your opponent doesn't, but they can only be challenged by other evasive characters. So, other than something like Dragon's Breath that can banish anyone, they're great for questing because they can quest by exerting themselves and not be challenged unless the other one has an evasive as well. And there's some that have awesome synergy, like Flotsam and Jetsam. Jetsam is evasive and makes Flotsam gain evasive when they're together. And Flotsam has Rush, which we talked about with Rafiki, which means you can attack right away. And then if Flotsam is out there and you play Jetsam, Jetsam also gains Rush. So by having them together, they actually get extra abilities. And like I said, that evasive is really great for questing if they don't have any evasive in their hand to play against you.
Yeah, and talking about the starter deck that is the Amber and Amethyst, I noticed a couple different things when I played versus when you played. So I noticed you ended up with a lot of healing cards. So the Dingle Hopper, the Hakuna Matata song, or like Cinderella has an ability to exert and remove 3 damage from a princess character. So a thing to call out there is that Minnie in that deck is a princess character because it is Princess Minnie. What I got a lot with that deck when I was playing was I got a lot of the drawing a card abilities. So I was able to move through the deck quicker, which was very different than kind of what you drew up when you played. So we saw sort of the two sides of this deck, but have yet to kind of be able to use them in conjunction.
Yeah, and that's actually a cool thing too, is remember those actions you can do can be in any order. So you can choose to challenge someone, banish their card to the discard pile, and your card survives, and you have a Dinglehopper, you can then exert that Dinglehopper to then heal one of that damage back. So you can challenge and survive and get healing back before they can then re-challenge you on their turn. The order is important to remember of that strategic of how you play and the order in which you do things. Or if that card survives, you can just take multiple turns to heal them back up before you exert them again. So you don't risk them if it's a card you really want to hold on to. And yeah, I like that too, because I had that a little more the second time I got some of those where I got the Friends from the Other Side that allows you to just draw 2 cards, which is really useful to restock my deck to get more things back in there. And like I said, we played the same deck, and it's just a matter of what came up in the way it was shuffled that can also change it as well.
Right. We also picked up the Emerald and Ruby deck, and TJ played that one every time we've played this. And when we purchased it, the owner of the game store we purchased it from was telling me that the Emerald and Ruby deck seems to be the more aggressive deck. And I would definitely agree with that because that deck has multiple ways and abilities to make your opponent lose lore, which is going to stop them from getting to that magic number of 20. But in addition, I also noticed, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of banishment cards, or I believe Cruella has the ability to bring back characters that were banished and put them back in your hand. So that deck is a lot more about keeping your opponent from winning, in addition to questing for yourself by banishing characters, making them lose lore, etc. Whereas the Amethyst and Amber deck is a lot more about getting you to draw up cards and heal your characters so they're not getting banished.
Yeah, he had actions, he had cards that would make me lose lore. Some were only losing 1 lore, but every lore matters. But then he also had some really bruiser cards in there that had like 5 or 6 strength that were sort of real hard hitters to go with that as well to kind of take your cards out and clear the board to then quest a lot. As it was mentioned too, I also like what you mentioned, the damage staying. I think it adds a nice aspect. Some of the other trading card games I've played are not like that, that if you survive, then you're fine. I like this because if something's really strong, you can whittle it down. Maybe you don't take it out, but at least you hurt it so that you can maybe take it out the next round. And you don't have to sacrifice everything to try to get one card out in a round. It's balanced with the ability to heal it and to get some stuff back. So I think that's a really fun aspect of this one compared to some of the other ones that we've played. My other thing that I like a lot is that the way to victory is lore. You do need a challenge as part of your strategy because if they have a lot of people, they can quest a lot and they can challenge you when you quest. But it's not the way that you win. You don't win by taking them out and taking down their health or just knocking them out. You win by getting that lore, by getting that all the way up. It's about questing my way there and finding unique ways to be able to get it without you being able to stop me.
So let's talk length of play. The games we played over the weekend lasted probably about 20 minutes, but this will vary based on your strategy.
Yeah, we had one of the games I played with TJ went a lot quicker, and some of the other ones lasted a bit longer. If you're both playing the same strategy, it might take a long time to knock it down. But it's definitely very cool that I want to play some more and see how more it is. But it's nice because it's something that we can just, the decks are already made, so all we got to do is shuffle the decks and we can start playing. We don't have to do much beyond that.
Right, and unlike some other TCGs that we've played, I've seen games last hours. I mean, I suppose you could do that with this, but I think that would be something you're not going to see unless you're going up against custom built decks.
Yeah, I could see it happening in very competitive play that it can take a lot longer, but not in the casual playing for fun way
Yeah,
that we do.
exactly. Some cool things about Lorcana, there's a companion app. It lets you track cards that you own. You have a lore counter on there that you can use during the game. There's a walkthrough to help you learn how to play, and you can also build decks using the library of what you own, and then you can save those decks for reference later.
Speaking about building a deck, so one of the fun things as you get more familiar is you can build your own deck. As you find those strategies you like, you can build a deck to enhance the way that you want to play. It is also a key aspect because as you get booster packs, you get more cards. And who doesn't love opening booster packs? Obviously, you can choose when and what of those you want to use. The rules for making a deck are currently pretty simple. Your deck has to have at least 60 cards in it. Your deck cannot contain more than 4 copies of a single card. Now, not 4 copies of just the same character of the same card. So there's different variations of a character, so you can have 2 of a different type of character. I had 2 different Dr. Faciliers in my deck. So I could have 4 of each of them, but I can only have 4 of each of that type of card. So that Facilier Charlatan card that I had, I can have 4 of that one card. So you can have more with the different varieties, but foil and regular count is the same. That's just a fancier looking version of the card. And then your deck can only contain cards from 1 or 2 inks. So you can't build 3 color decks. You can only build a maximum of 2 color decks. But you can build all of one color if that's what you want to play.
I'm sure over time, as the cards become more readily available and more people start playing competitively, we're going to see a lot of strategies on how to build decks. The important part of the deck is having characters, items, and actions that work well together. That balance and stacking power is an important factor to the deck. You're going to want and need cards that play off one another and work together. This might be something we revisit later, maybe with a new release or a bonus video of some of our favorite strategies or playstyles as we spend more time in this game.
So let's talk about the release. I really love what they did here. They started by first releasing it only at your friendly local game stores, your FLGS, on August 18th this year. Now, we ended up going to 2 different shops, the Collective and the Crafty Gamer, and got 1 starter deck at each place. Though we couldn't stick around, the Collective was having a special play session there for everyone to learn together, play, have some fun, and they had a special card giveaway at the game. And I think I saw on their social media they have a play session for Lorcana right now every Saturday at 2 p.m.
From checking out social media, stock did seem to be limited at all of our local stores. But again, it's fun to let game shops, which in my opinion are vital to the world of TCGs, be the first ones to have them instead of the big box retailers.
Now, depending on when you're listening to this, you won't have to wait long, or it might be already fully out. On September 1st, you'll get a full retail release, including international in Germany, France, UK, and Canada. This means it should be available at any of your large retailers, as well as on shopdisney.com on September 1st.
And if you're not sure where to find it, you can actually go to the Disney Lorcana website and they will list what stores it will be available in your area. The big box release on September 1st will include starter decks, the 3 different 2-ink color decks, booster packs, a jump-in gift set including Mulan, Imperial Soldier, and Hades, King of Olympus, the Illumineers Trove, which has an art box, 2 deck boxes, boosters, and more. And of course, accessories like card sleeves, playmats, and portfolios for storing your cards.
And if I'm not mistaken, also this week they released it that you could get it at World of Disney in Disney Springs and at one of the stores at Disneyland as well.
Okay, I'm going to be right back. All right, final thoughts. John?
I really enjoyed playing it. We've played a number of trading card games, though I won't say we've gone deep into really any of them. I like the mechanics they chose and what is different from others. And I'm also kind of curious to see what the storytelling they plan to go with this is, because this release is titled The First Chapter. Though I'm hoping they'll take their time in adding new decks and mechanics and cards and not overload it too early. But I'm really kind of excited to see where this goes and to honestly just play more of it.
For sure. As a Disney fan, I thought it was super fun. I really liked some of the film references they made. For example, there's a Mr. Tibbs card, which a lot of people are going to be like, what is he from? But if you're a big Disney fan, you'll know what film he's in. I also like that they, like you said, they utilize mechanics that a lot of TCG players are already familiar with, but then kind of put their own twist on it, which I think is what makes it unique and will make it competitive in the long run. Just like other TCGs that have their own unique mechanics that allow you to take them to a competitive level, they're definitely looking at the long term here, and I think that's a benefit to them. And if you've never played a TCG, this is honestly super easy to learn.
Yeah, I think it's a really good balance of being great and easy to play for anybody who wants to pick it up, but I see a lot of elements there that I'm sure will play very competitively, especially in just some of these abilities, seeing how you could probably stack a lot of them. I'm sure this will play really competitively as well.
Yeah, especially with some of those more rare cards that people are starting to find in the booster packs. I'm seeing that those are fairly powerful and have a lot of really cool abilities, but they're not coming in the starter decks. So as people chase those down, I think, yeah, you're definitely going to see people bulking up their decks.
And you can build a deck of just your favorite characters from your movies. Well, I'm your host, John Wiki, and you can find me on Twitter as John_Wiki, that's WICKEE, and now on Threads as John_Wiki_Games.
And I'm Stevie, and you can find me on social media at Stevies_Games.
20-Minute Tabletop is a Morecore Studios production. Theme song by Arthur Rowan, Morecore art by Sita Duncan. Do you want more tabletop gaming fun? Subscribe to 20-Minute Tabletop on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like what you hear? Leave us a review while you're there or tell a friend. Find out more on our website, 20mintabletop.com. That's the numbers 20mintabletop.com. Or connect with us on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram as @20mintabletop, @20mintabletop. Thank you and roll with fortune. So, for what it is, we'll turn